Let me ask you guys something. How is it possible that Far Cry 7 has become the most talked about Ubisoft game on the internet, yet Ubisoft hasn't officially announced Far Cry 7? Some of you say, well, it's channels like yours, Jimmy. Well, you're right. True. I didn't think about that. But seriously, think about it for a second. We've had years of leaks, insider reports, supposed screenshots, gameplay details, story rumors, engine rumors, multiplayer rumors, release window speculation, even discussions about potential endings. Yet Ubisoft has not stepped onto a stage with a mic and said, yep, here's the next Far Cry. That's what makes the game so fascinating to me right now. We're in this weird situation, this bubble, where we know something is coming. Ubisoft has practically admitted as much. But the actual details, well, they're buried beneath years of reports, leaks, conflicting leaks, development changes, and a publisher that's been going through one of the most turbulent periods in its history. And that's where our job comes in today. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy, your Chaos. Today I'm going to update you guys on everything we know about Far Cry 7, the speculation, the plots, the new way this game could go, the setting, the release date, all of it. I read every single comment on every single video, so chime in. And what's even more interesting is if you start connecting all these dots, which is what we do, there's a picture. May not be a complete picture. Some of the details could absolutely change before release, but there's enough information out there that we can start getting a pretty good idea of what Ubisoft might be building. The question isn't really whether another Far Cry is coming. We know it is. The real question is whether Ubisoft is simply making Far Cry 7 or they're trying to completely reinvent the Far Cry wheel. So before we get into the leaks and rumors, let's start with what Ubisoft has actually confirmed, because a lot of people online tend to blur the lines between official information and insider reports. So Ubisoft has publicly stated multiple times, Far Cry remains one of its most important franchises. The company has recognized and reorganized itself to, let's just say, a handful of major brands. Far Cry sitting right alongside Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six. Those are the pillars of the Ubisoft future. Ubisoft CEO has told us, confirmed, there's multiple Far Cry projects currently in development. That's not speculation. That's not a leak. That is an official statement from the company itself. And what Ubisoft has not confirmed is the name of Far Cry 7. We haven't got the story, the setting, the gameplay mechanics, the release date, basically anything that the fans really want. So that brings us to the leaks. Now, honestly, things get pretty interesting here. If you've been following Far Cry rumors or this channel and the videos we've made in the past, you've heard the names Blackbird, you've heard Maverick, and according to reporters and reporting from Insider Gaming and Tom Henderson himself, Ubisoft has reportedly been working on 2 separate Far Cry projects. Now, Blackbird is believed to be the next mainline entry that everybody refers to as Far Cry 7, while Maverick has been described as a multiplayer-focused project that has gone through several changes during development. Now, the thing is, both projects reportedly originated from a larger concept before eventually being split into separate experiences. Is that good or bad? Well, only time will tell. I mean, whether it's still the case today, that remains unclear, but this idea of Ubisoft building more than one Far Cry experience at the same time kind of fits with the direction the company has been talking about publicly. Now, the biggest story leak surrounding the next Far Cry, which we will call Far Cry 7 until we know otherwise, is that they're going to do something new. According to reports, the game revolves around rescuing members of a wealthy family who has been kidnapped by a cult known as the Sons of Truth. So at first glance, sounds like classic Far Cry territory. The series loved the charismatic villains, the cults, the extremist groups, and situations where players are thrown into the middle of a conflict that's much bigger than themselves. But the part that stood out wasn't the cult. It wasn't even the family rescue concept. It was the reported timer mechanic attached to the entire game. So according to multiple reports, players won't have unlimited time to save everybody. The idea is that the game is built around a ticking clock. Various reports have described this as a roughly 72 in-game hour clock, which translates to, I guess, around 24 real-world hours. So safe houses, they could pause the timer, but the overall concept remains the same. You're under constant pressure. Every mission, every decision matters. Time becomes a resource just like ammunition or money. Some of your family members could potentially die if you wait too long, and certain storylines could disappear entirely depending on how you play the game and how fast or slow you play the game. I mean, the order in which you tackle objectives could drastically alter the outcome of the game. Now, if that mechanic sounds controversial, that's because it absolutely is. Some players hear that idea and they immediately get excited, myself included, because it sounds like that kind of risk-taking Far Cry that they desperately need. One of the biggest criticisms of recent Ubisoft games is they feel too safe. Massive maps, hundreds of icons, endless side activities, yellow paint everywhere, but no urgency. So a timer mechanic would completely change how players approach this world. Suddenly you can't wander around for 50 hours collecting resources and checking off objectives. Every choice has actual real weight. But on the other side of the coin, there's plenty of fans who play Far Cry specifically because they enjoy exploring at their own pace. So the idea of a timer hanging over their head sounds like hell, the exact opposite of what they want from an open world game. That's why the rumor continues to spark debates every time I mention it. And you guys, let me know in the comment section. Do you like the idea? I love innovation. I love them pushing forward and trying to change the wheel a little bit or break the wheel. I think this could end up being something really cool. And I know change scares a lot of people, especially when it comes to their favorite franchises. So you guys chime in. The more you look at it, I think it makes sense. Ubisoft has talked repeatedly about wanting its major franchises to evolve. The company knows that simply repeating the Far Cry 3 formula forever is not sustainable. So if these leaks are true, then a timer mechanic could be Ubisoft's attempt to introduce tension and replayability in a way that fundamentally changes how players interact with the game world. So imagine finishing the story and realizing there were entire missions, entire characters, entire outcomes you never saw or experienced because you made certain choices under pressure. I think that kind of structure could encourage multiple playthroughs in a way the series has never really been attempted before. And beyond the story itself, reports are suggesting Ubisoft is making significant changes to the gameplay. One of the most common rumors floating around is the movement system. Tactical sprinting, improved traversal, sliding, vaulting, just a more fluid movement has been mentioned in these reports. Now, it might not sound like a huge deal at first, but the movement is one thing that players notice immediately. Open world games have evolved dramatically over the last decade. The way players move through environments in modern shooters is completely different than it was when Far Cry 5 launched. So if Ubisoft wants Far Cry to feel modern, I think improving the movement is a good place to start. Now, there's also been rumors about the interrogation systems. We talked about this on the last video. Information gathering, more dynamic ways of discovering your objective. So instead of simply climbing a tower and revealing half the map, you're going to have to actively hunt for information. You're going to have to question enemies, make decisions about which leads you want to follow. Again, none of it's confirmed, but if Ubisoft is truly trying to push the series in a new direction, I think these types of systems make sense. They add player agency, but they don't completely abandon the core DNA that is Far Cry. Then we get to the biggest one, the biggest mystery surrounding the entire game, the setting. If you followed me or the leaks, you probably noticed that the setting seems to change depending on which report you're reading. At one point, we were talking about going to Korea. Those rumors eventually lost credibility as more information surfaced. Then, Alaska started becoming the location that was most frequently associated with it. Snow-covered wilderness, dangerous wildlife, extreme weather. I like that one, but the problem is, Alaska appears to be more strongly connected to Maverick than Blackbird. That's where things get confusing. Some reports suggest Alaska belongs primarily to the multiplayer project. Others are implying elements may be carried over to the main game. Then there's reports suggesting leaked images were actually connected to older versions of projects that don't even exist. So in short, we don't know where they're going. We have no clue where Far Cry 7 is going to take place. What we do know is the setting has always been one of the franchise's greatest strengths. Whether it's a tropical island, a mountain range, rural America, fictional dictatorships, whatever. It lives and dies with its atmosphere. So you tell me, where do you want this to be located? Another major talking point revolves around the actual engine for the game. Reports have suggested Ubisoft may be moving away from the Dunia engine that has powered Far Cry for years and instead shifting to Snowdrop. So if that ends up being true, could have big implications for the future of the franchise. Snowdrop has already powered several Ubisoft projects and offers a completely different set of capabilities compared to the old one. Better environment, improved lighting, flexibility. If you're going to evolve, you have to evolve the tech. Now, I guess we'll talk about the multiplayer. I don't know if fans like it or not. I'm not really interested in it, but I mean, officially Ubisoft has made it clear that future versions of the major brands will feature stronger multiplayer components. You'll have social systems, longer-term engagement. They were Ubisoft words, not mine. It doesn't necessarily mean Far Cry is becoming a live service game, but it does mean that they're suggesting they're going to put more time in the ecosystem. Whenever I hear live service or multiplayer being added to something that's never been multiplayer, I kind of cringe, I step back. So we'll see. We'll see how it looks in practice. Does Maverick launch separately as an extraction shooter? Does it become a mode of Far Cry 7? Does Ubisoft merge the concepts into a single package? I have no idea. But like I said, we'll wait and see. And the biggest thing, when are we getting this game? Well, this is where the official information stops. Ubisoft has not announced a reveal date. They have not announced a release date. They haven't even acknowledged Far Cry 7 by name, but the company's financial forecast, which we like to look at, have repeatedly pointed toward a stronger lineup of releases over the next few years. So based on what I know, a 2027 release window, It could happen in fall of 2027. Feels pretty safe to me. They could announce or reveal anytime this year and have that 12-month marketing campaign to lead up. I could see that happening. Actually, I'm going to land on that. I'm going to say fall of 2027. That puts you out of the reach of the GTA 6 tidal wave, and I think that's good. I mean, a reveal, I think late 2026 is possible. They historically... they don't always need years of marketing for a Far Cry game, right? They're usually pretty quick about it. So a reveal this year and a launch next year, I think that works. Let me know what you guys think. I'll keep you posted. The biggest question for me for you is the timer. What do you think?